Hello, it is Editing Izzy. You are going to notice something in this video that is going to drive me crazy, and it is the fact that my mic switched. It switched to a different mic. Normally, I use this one that you hear me on, and for whatever reason in this video, my computer decided to use a different mic. So, a part of me, and I like to be real and authentic and raw with you guys when it comes to sharing. A part of me wanted to refilm all this, but as I'm listening through, I can't recreate this message that I was sharing because it was so tapped in, it was so connected, and I'd be doing myself and my voice a disservice to try to recreate all of this, and it would no longer come from an authentic channeled space. Because if you know me, you know that my astrology comes from not only all of my 11 years of study, but also lived experience and my ability to tap into the divine. So, yeah, if the sound quality is frustrating, if it's something that you don't enjoy hearing, I totally understand. This will be an invitation to sign up to my newsletter where a lot of this information will be in a written format for you to digest in a different way. But if you're able to sit and listen regardless, it would mean the world to me. And maybe let me know if I'm being dramatic about the audio quality. Like, I'm just super sensitive to it. I enjoy when things sound nice. And this is kind of leads into the whole message of the astrology of this week, and even leading into this full moon is sort of like, can you push past your discomfort and still do things? And right now, my discomfort is that this is not the quality I want something to be, but it also is delivering the truth I want it to deliver. So, truth versus quality. I'm going to go with truth. So, with all that said, here's the video. I'll see you guys on the other side. Bye. Hi guys. In today's video, we are going to be talking about the Aries full moon that is coming up on October 6th. The first part of this video, I'll be diving into the different layers of how it's going to be moving, the different astrological aspects that are coming into the conversation. And then later in the video, I'll be diving into how it's affecting you personally based off of your rising sign. Now, as always, watch the first part of the video before you jump into your rising sign because it's going to give you extra context and how to apply that to your rising sign. So definitely let me know down below, what is your rising sign and what are you going to be doing for this full moon? If you guys didn't know, I have a full moon guide down below, and this full moon I'm hosting my first ever full moon circle. Now, I've hosted different circles in the past in different environments, but this is going to be the first one that I'm doing under my full brand name, Astremia. So if you want to join me and be held in a sacred container with me, we're going to be jumping into talking more in depth about what is happening, how it's transpiring, how it's affecting you, and using the chat to converse about what's going on, what's present. And then we'll be diving into a guided vision journey led by me, and then closing with some beautiful journal prompts. There's more details linked below, so if you're interested, you can grab a seat. There are limited seats available because I want to keep the container really structured and tight knit. So if you want to do that with me, and if you've been called to work deeper with me, all my other offerings are linked below. I have a few mentorship spots open as well as astrological readings. All of my information is listed below. If you saw on my Instagram story the other day, or I don't even know when I'll be uploading this, I have been sitting with my journal, writing a bunch of notes, and just really diving into this full moon. I have the chart up to the side, and it's no wonder that I paused and waited before filming this. Something about my modality of delivering this content, it's completely changed. I used to be very rigid and very structured in the timeline that I would record videos and when I'd have them out by, and a lot of that has to do with my corporate background. And what I've learned for myself is when the time is right for me to deliver these messages, I will deliver them. And it's brushed against some of those ragged, rough edges of mine to be okay with that. And so I know when this video is coming out, when it's meeting you is exactly when it's supposed to. And I deeply trust that. And I trust that my content will meet the people that it's supposed to. And additionally, if you do want to share this with a friend because you do believe that it's going to help them or give them guidance in some way, definitely share. Liking, commenting, etc. definitely pushes this content to people that may benefit from it as well. So I appreciate everybody who's been engaging as I've been building myself on this platform. I've been filming on YouTube for almost like 6 months now, which is wild. And it's just been such a beautiful opportunity. So I appreciate everybody who is showing up continually. All that said, let's talk about this full moon in Aries. And I'm really excited for this. There's some, if you guys know me, I do like tension. I do like those opportunities that astrology gives us to grow and evolve. And we have some very unique configurations happening with this full moon. Now, this full moon is definitely standing on its own, but there's some other aspects that are happening while this is happening that create another story. So it's almost the way it's been showing up in my mind's eye is just like two separate areas of your life both being highlighted. A lot of that phrasing around like two truths being true at once has been coming up a lot in my collective messages and even within the astrology. It's sort of this idea that like both can be true. It's all two sides of a coin. They're both there and it's still a coin. And I'm thinking of this in the imagery of you as a person having multiple facets within your life, right? Now, when we break this down, because you know me, I'm a teacher and I love giving you guys concrete details on what this is doing for you. And so we're going to start with the layer of it being a full moon. Full moons are when the moon is at its highest peak illumination, opposing the sun. So the sun is at 14 degrees of Libra and the moon is at 14 degrees of Aries, creating this full illumination. Now, when the moon is at its peak, it's usually a moment of harvest, of celebration, and then in turn letting go, right? It's really just like this moment of like reaping the rewards of the intentions that you set during the new moon, which happened to have been a solar eclipse. And one edge I want to bring to our attention is this is the first full moon in a bit that we've had where the nodes are out of Aries and Libra. The last year and a half, we've had them in Aries and Libra during Libra season, the last year and a half. And so this is like the first kind of like peeking at this area of our life without such intense focus. It's almost like there's a lot more permission here and less of a like heavy weight, which is really nice. I'm definitely feeling that. So full moons, celebrations, right? And when we have the moon in Aries, this is the first sign. That's why I am hosting my first full moon circle under this brand, under the Aries full moon, because it's the first one. And the moon in Aries is all about the self and the identity. And we've been really working on some interesting edges lately around the self identity. And it's almost like this moment of celebration of how far you've come. I want to invite you guys to look at where you were 6 months ago, a year ago, right? So think back of this time of year last year when the nodes were in Aries and Libra and the sort of areas of life that were coming up for you and how this just feels like a moment of celebration for the self. Now, I have in my notes here a lot of stuff and there's a lot of different layers I want to bring into this conversation and to try to keep it as condensed as I possibly can. And not overload you with too much information. But I also know those of you who do show up here really do like when I overload you with information. So some things that are happening here is this is the illumination of sort of selfhood, right? We've got the moon in Aries. This is a couple layers here. It's at the second decan, which is ruled by the sun itself. And the sort of imagery that was coming up for me, excuse me as I get comfy, because once I start talking, I'm just like, grab your tea, grab a snack, because we're getting in. And by the way, guys, just so you know, I wonder if I'll get in trouble for that on YouTube. I don't know. Anyways, so when we look at the axis of Aries and Libra, right? Because both are coming into this conversation because this is how the full moons work. And Aries is the constellation when we look at the natural chart. It's the constellation that's coming up over the horizon, and Libra rules over the descendant, the going down. And so it's almost as though there's just this polarity of starting something new and something coming to an end. There's kind of this crux that is happening that I'm noticing within the astrology and lived experience for myself is this sort of like transformation of the personality, and also recognizing this sort of shedding of relationships that no longer meet us where we truly are at or where we're striving to be. And I bring in that edge of striving to be because this full moon is ruled by the Three of Wands. And I'll put this right here. When we look at the image of the Three of Wands, we have this gentleman who is looking out into the distant horizon. That's why I'm really bringing in the conversation of the horizon line, of almost like the sun setting. It's almost like this sort of appreciation for something coming to a close, but also recognizing that it's almost like I heard chasing the sun and like actually going forward and going off into adventure. As I'm looking at my notes here, and I really just kind of did some channeled writing as well, there is this energy of the self identity standing on its own, bright, illuminated, looking off into the distant setting sun, Libra, relationships, as a crux, the point of reflection of self, is what I wrote here. And it really is this sort of connotation of as within, so without. And not to get too quantum on y'all, but you guys know I like to bring in different layers, is essentially the people that we call into our life tend to be sort of keys to unlock different aspects of ourselves, whether these are parts of ourselves that have been hidden or are needing to be revamped because other people illuminate different parts of us, just like the sun is illuminating the moon in this full moon. So relationships are heavy here, not heavy, but like heavy in focus, because we are in Libra season. So we are focused on the self versus the other. Like, who am I within relationships? And what are the relationships around me? And I believe in my last video, I brought up the awareness of who are the people closest to you. Those are reflections of you. Those are reflections of who you are. And if there's something that maybe rubs you the wrong way with those relationships, and there is maybe like, oh, whoa, like, I don't know if I want that to be a part of my identity. That is coming to your attention here too. It's sort of illuminating the self within relationships. How do you show up? And are these relationships where you want to continue forward? Again, looking off into the distance, like, what are your future plans? Where do you want to go? There's a lot of really powerful reflective energy happening with this full moon. Now, there's a few things that are coming up here with this full moon, and something that I just looking at the chart for the first I have been looking at it, but sometimes I take some time to really sit with it, and I was like, "Oh my god. There's a yod happening here," and we had this a similar yod happen a little bit ago, but I didn't touch on it. We are having a yod because the morning before this full moon reaches full illumination, and I'll dive deeper into this in my newsletter if you're not signed up. All of it's linked below. Is we have a yod forming between Neptune and Aries at 0 degrees retrograde, Uranus and Gemini at 1 degree retrograde, and Mercury is moving into Scorpio right before this full moon. And this is why I brought in the conversation of two sort of realities happening at the same time. And they kind of bleed together, especially if we look at the overlapping of Libra and Scorpio. Libra is that sort of light and fair and just sort of form of relationship. It's very much so um, even even distribution of energy, right? Fairness, keeping things balanced. And then when we move into Scorpio, that balance merges and it can form and be pulled one way or another. And with Mercury, and I've been talking about this in my live streams, about Mercury is sort of this torchbearer that is leading the way into the underworld, flying really fast ahead of the sun right now. It's almost like we've sent him as a foot soldier to prepare us for what's coming ahead. And so there's this sort of concept that our mind is a little bit further ahead than our egoic expression. And this yod that's happening here, right, is, and I can feel it in my body when I start talking about these things. Yods are coined as the finger of God in astrology. It happens when two planets are sextile and then they quincunx, which is 150 degrees to a sort of other point within the chart, whatever planet or luminary that is. And it's not comfortable, to be completely honest. This is not a comfortable thing. And that's why I started the video the way I did of I enjoy the sort of uncomfortable air that astrology brings to us, and it brings these sort of moments of the fact that this is happening during a full moon where the self is completely identified. It's almost like our newest, rawest version of self is on display. And then Mercury sneaks into the underworld and starts to go into these undercurrents, and it's like, ooh, wait, whoa, what is happening here? And so this energetic push that is happening is for deep, authentic communication. When we look at Mercury, Mercury is our communicator. It's how we learn things, how we say things. And with Mercury moving into Scorpio, it's bringing us down into the deepest parts of ourself. This is our dark psyche. This is the shadows, the underworld, and the sort of press that we're getting from Neptune and Uranus is a very interesting thing. And the way that it's sort of transmuted in my brain is I want to bring your attention back to this summer, because we had Neptune and Uranus move into new signs during this summer, right? Moved into Aries, moved into Gemini for the first time in a while. And so this summer was a whole new experience. It was almost like, oh, I'm a new person. Trying this new identity on, and I'm doing this thing. And then they went retrograde and we're like integrating the lessons of like, what was that like, that new identity, and how did that form? And so this this yod that's happening is really bringing our attention to like, now it's time to speak that into existence almost. It's kind of like pulling out the layers of what that expression was. And that's still basically, I heard, under construction within us. But it's sort of this energy where Scorpio's like, something needs to be said from this. Something needs to be expressed, or revelations coming through your mind or in conversation. And I'm bringing up conversation so much because we are in Libra season, and that does bring in the aspect of another, right? So to sort of combine these energies, to combine this full moon illumination in Aries and then this yod that is pointing towards Mercury in Scorpio, there is this rawness with our unconscious reactive habit patterns, the moon being illuminated around our identity that's coming to our attention, that we now get to communicate through these sort of tension points that are happening with this quincunx and yod happening to Mercury in Scorpio. There's a lot of permission around it doesn't have to be perfect. Scorpio lives for the messy and for the sort of darker aspects of ourselves. And I think of this sort of Mercury and Scorpio almost like a vulture, like a turkey vulture, kind of like transmuting dead energy, right? It's like, what's coming up is like, what are the conversations that you've been avoiding? Why? And even if they're conversations with yourself too, of like, I'm just going to skirt around that part. And again, bringing in the theme of this summer, it's almost like, it's sort of bringing in this new identity that was forming, that just sort of, it was almost like the idea of this new self was planted. But now it's like, where does that fit into your current structure, and what needs to be released in order for this new structure to stay. And I know this is a lot that I'm talking about for this full moon, right? Again, when it comes to talking about astrology, this doesn't have to necessarily fully be your experience. I'm just talking to the depth that it is showing here. And again, this could be happening to a friend of yours and they're expressing it, and you happen to be the confidant that they are sharing this deep truth with, or this revelation, or you, if you've looked at my newsletter for this week, Letters from the Eighth House, I talked about all the different aspects Mercury was making before leading up to this point. You can check it out. It's on my Substack. There's this sort of like tender edges that have been coming to our attention as of lately within communication. And this full moon really feels like an opportunity to just like let yourself be seen unapologetically and in your raw, vulnerable state. Truly, fully you. And it might be this sort of identity that isn't fully formed just yet. It's sort of, again, under construction. And so just feeling into this energy, it feels very liberating. It feels exciting and fiery. And yeah, unapologetic is what keeps coming in. So I'm going to leave that there. We're going to dive a lot deeper into what's happening in my full moon gathering. So if you want to come join, we'll be jumping into this, bring your chart and everything. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the rising signs. And before I do that, if you've been enjoying this, definitely like, comment, subscribe, all those things definitely help my content get out there, and your support means so much to me. So let's go ahead and jump into the rising signs. Okay, for Aries risings, this is happening in your first self of identity. So this is everything I always say is tenfold for you because you have the natural chart. So all of this sort of self-illumination is coming to a head. So your identity is illuminated here. There's radical clarity around selfhood, appearance, and how you're being seen and perceived, right? The first house is how you perceive the world, and the world perceives you. So it's double-sided. So your perception on the world could be changed or illuminated at this time. This Mercury is moving into your 8th house if we're looking at the whole sign houses. And so themes of vulnerable conversation is coming up for you, especially around intimacy, shared resources, or power. That's that Scorpio energy. Speak your truth, especially if it's uncomfortable. Okay? For my Taurus risings, this full moon is happening in your 12th house. This is your subconscious mind. This is the hidden part of you. So when a full moon happens in your 12th house, it's as though something is being illuminated here. So something hidden or unconscious is bursting to light here. This may be breaking out of solitude in some space, or even your spiritual practices revealing something that is of deep self-personal truth. Mercury is moving through your 7th house, and so real conversations may pierce that veil for you. Secrets, projections, or contracts, right? The 7th house has to do with relating people, could surface at this time. For my Gemini risings, this is happening in your 11th house. So that's sort of our group oriented identity, friendships, collective energy is coming to illumination here. Your role within the collective energy is going to be highlighted, especially around friendship circles or the collective communities that you are a part of. Mercury is transiting your 6th house. So this has to do with health, routine, and services. So there may be some boundaries coming up here at this time that point to those areas. And conversations around your role within those spaces may cut deep. All right, for my Cancer risings, this is happening in your 10th house, which has to do with your career and public identity. This is being illuminated. How you're known in the world is up for reflection. You're looking at this space and reflecting on it. And Mercury is transiting your 5th house, which has to do with dating, love, creativity. So a truth around those spaces is going to be demanding your voice and speaking to them. There could be a tension between what you're called to create versus what other people expect of you. Again, bringing in that 10th house energy. Leo risings, this full moon is happening in your 9th house. This has to do with beliefs, higher learning, spiritual studies. So there is a bright light in this area of reflecting in this area and how you've grown and what you're searching for. And I really feel like it's going to be a moment of spiritual clarity for you guys. This could also bring in some planning for travel or learning to teach in a specific area of your life. Mercury is transiting your 4th house, and so this brings in some deep familial and ancestral patterns and truths that are going to be coming up here as this yacht is happening. So there may be an edge between sort of your public philosophy versus your private legacy and understanding how do these two work together. For my Virgo risings, this full moon is illuminating your 8th house, which happens to be the darkest part of you. So this is coming to illumination. I'm screaming, I'm a Virgo rising. So emotional truths about intimacy, shared resources, and endings might come to light during this full moon, really understanding the deeper shadows and what wants to be shared. Mercury is transiting your 3rd house of communication. And as somebody ruled by Mercury, this is very significant. So conversations coming to truth that are delivering hard truths. These could be words that you didn't expect to hear, but can't really unhear them. Libra risings, this full moon is happening in your 7th house of partnerships. So there's an illumination of relationships happening here. Where is there balance or imbalance? Where are you giving too much and not receiving enough? Or are you so far in receptivity that there is no balance? So this is sort of the attention here. Now, Mercury is transiting your 2nd house, which is really bringing in questions around worth, money, or values, and especially that contrast between you versus others. You know, where do these themes of worth lie, and where are you just adopting worth from what other people say? For my Scorpio risings, this full moon is happening in your 6th house. So habits, health, service, routines is being spotlighted here. Old patterns are ready to be released and let go and sort of move into this new integration. And Mercury is moving through your 1st house. This brings in how you convey your identity and how you actually allow yourself to be seen. So your words and tone and identity might hold that uncomfortable truth that others resist hearing. Like you're actually like, I'm burping too. You might actually hold this sort of candle of illumination for other people to confront their shadows, which as a Scorpio rising, you just naturally do that in general. You trigger the hell out of people. But now Mercury's here. Say it. Call people out. Do it. Say the thing that you've been holding back. And then report back to me in the comments how that went. For Sagittarius risings, this is happening in your 5th house, full moon in the 5th house. This brings illumination to creativity, your joy, dating. So there's those sort of matters are being illuminated here. Play versus responsibility is sort of that tension point. And Mercury is transiting into your 12th house, which is hidden truths, subconscious messages, and sort of ideas cutting through illusions. So there may be a subconscious thought that has been hidden from you that is coming to your attention now. Capricorn risings, this is happening in your 4th house of home, family, roots. Something's being illuminated here in your 4th house. Something private is being revealed and wanting to be seen. Now, Mercury is moving through your 11th house, which has to do with conversations with community, networks, friendships. There may be a sharp edge that's pressing against your inner stability and challenging that sort of home environment that you've been really working to cultivate and to hone in on. For Aquarius risings, this full moon is happening in your 3rd house. That has to do with learning, communication, also siblings and neighborhoods. This is being illuminated. So you're really understanding the value of your words here and how powerful they are. And with that being said, with Mercury moving into your 10th house of career, public image, what you say lands with impact. So there is power in what you say to the people. So be aware of this. Be aware of the magnitude and the weight of what your words carry and say them. Do it. And last but not least, my Pisces risings. This is happening in your second house, which has to do with your values, finances, and self-worth. This is being illuminated. You're really seeing the sort of self that you've been cultivating in that area of life and the worth that is coming to your attention. Now, Mercury is moving into your 9th house, which is really pulling in a thread of deeper truth about your philosophy, about your spiritual beliefs. This is being asked to be voiced. Say the damn thing. Say it. And this might even shift the trajectory of your life, because when your beliefs change, the path changes, right? Beautiful. I'm excited for you guys. Okay, if you made it to the end of this video, I am so excited and I'm so grateful for everybody who is supporting my work that I'm doing here. And if you do feel called to join my full moon circle, I would love the opportunity to hold you in that sacred container and to dive deeper and actually move through this energy that I've been speaking of in this video in a concrete, physical, deep, spiritual way. So, okay, I'm gonna leave that here. Love you guys. Bye.